Hello friends, welcome to another video. In this video we are going to look into a field parameters and calculation groups. Field parameters is a new feature, very powerful, and I love it, and calculation group is my all-time favorite. I was recently working on a project where I decided to use field parameters, but then I realized that there are certain things which I cannot achieve using field parameters. Then I have to switch to the calculation groups. So in this video, I'm going to talk about what was that use case that I have to switch from field parameters to calculation groups. And also we will look into different scenarios where the field parameters will work and we don't need to go to calculation groups. Anyhow, I'm going to go through many use cases in this video based on my experience when I was working on the project and want to share it with all of you. So let's get to Power BI, take a look at that, what we want to achieve, and how field parameters was able to solve that, and what was the point when we moved to calculation groups. Let's look at Power BI. All right, so here we have a very simple matrix visual. The ask was why I need to use the field parameters, that we have a many measures here like sales, quantity, discount. They're just a sum and whatnot, and number of orders. The ask was the user wanted to in a visualization, they want to see they want to select a measure and then wanted to see the percentage of allocation by state. Right now we are looking at the data by state. So let's say if they want to select a measure sales, and then they want to see the percentage of sales for each state. And if they select quantity, and then they wanted to see the percentage of sale, a percentage of quantity allocation by each state. So for me, it was the pretty straightforward. First thing to do is okay, create a field parameters which will allow us to pick and choose which measure we want to show, and then we can calculate the percentage. So I'm going to do that, and also do check out a video on the field parameters which I did. I will share the link in the description. So the first part is, okay, we want to select a measure, and the simplest thing to do is go to modeling, new parameter, and then the fields parameter, right? Field parameter does work with measures and the columns. So for I'm gonna call it a select a measure, and then use all the measures which we want to allow the user to pick. So there was a sales, and then there was a quantity. All these measures we're going to pick. Again, these measures are pretty straightforward. They're just sum and number of orders. So let's see these three. I'm just going to stick to these three and add slicer to this page. So let's do that. And so once this is created, the field parameter is created, so pretty much everything is done. My thing is I remove the table name next to the field parameters, sorry, the measure name, because the measures are global to the model, so you don't need to have the table name. So now we have a field parameters created as in a slicer, and then we have this matrix visual. I'm not gonna use these measures here. So after I removed all the measures, we're gonna select a measure, the what if parameter, and then drop it in the values. So now it shows all three selected measures in matrix visual. If I pick quantity, it will pick quantity. Of course, we all know how this works, sales, and then number of orders. Now again, going back to the original question, the question was whatever the measure is selected, show the percentage of that measure by state. Now they at that point in time, they all only wanted to see one measure at a time, because it was also showing on the map, and there were two visuals, matrix and the map visual, and they were also showing highlighting the area on the map. But I'm not going to do the map side of things. So the first thing is because they always wanted to select one measure at a time, so we can make our slicer and change it to single select. Slicer settings, selection, and went on the single select. Sorry, so this is the first thing. Um, Now once this is done, now I can at any given point I can only select one uh, measure. So far so good. Our field parameter is doing the job what we wanted, and now the next thing was to create a measure to calculate the percentage of the selected measure. All right, so I already created a measure which we will use to calculate the percentage. So I'm gonna add that one here. Let me grab. So let's add a measure called percentage of selected measure. Let me quickly walk through what I'm doing in this one. So we are using selected value to find out what measure has been selected or what option has been selected in the slicer for the field parameters. Just quickly to make sure what is selected here. First we are storing that in a variable, what measure is being selected. Then I created another variable because we need to reuse this to calculate the percentage. So we are removing the filter from the geography state, or we are saying give me all selected states because we want to calculate the percentage by each state. So now finally what we're doing is in the result variable we are switching through whatever measure is selected and we are making the calculation. Now this is where I found the field parameter is not very scalable, and I will walk through why that is the case. But this is the first thing I thought this is not going to work. I will show you why. So what we're doing is we're saying, okay, selected measure if it is a sales measure selected, and one thing you want to make sure, even I removed when I created the field parameter I removed the sales table next to the measure name here, but the selected value still return the selected value still return the with the table name next to the measure. So I'm checking, okay, if the selected measure is sales, then divide sales, the actual sales, by state, and then remove the filter on the state column from the geography, because that's what we're seeing in the matrix visual. And so basically sales of the state divided by the total sales. So that will give the percentage. When the measure selected is quantity, then we're doing the same thing. So we are repeating this logic again and again. And if I add another measure in the field parameter, I need to come here and add that as the condition. And that is the first flaw where this solution will not work, because then it will become every time we add a new measure in the field parameter, we have to make sure that we are coming here and adding that as in this percentage of selected measure. But regardless of that, so what I can do is result. So once we added this measure in here, now I can bring this percentage of selected measure on my visualization here, and maybe call it percentage, right? So change the format to percentage of this new measure. Okay, perfect. So what we're seeing is now we are seeing the sales by state and their percentage share. So California is 50%, and if we click on the quantity, so now we are seeing the quantity and percentage. So far this is working perfectly fine. So at this point of time, still field parameter is good, it is working. We have the ability to choose a measure, and then also with the percentage we checked which measure is selected, and then we did the calculation. But if I add a fourth measure in this selected measure field parameter, I have to go back to my percentage of selected measure and change that as well. So in the switch statement. So that's the one drawback. And another drawback before I go to the calculation groups I want to show here is, let's say if this is not a single select, what would happen at that point of time? So basically the user, let's say, come back and say I want to sales and then see the sales allocation percentage, and I also want to see the quantity. I also want to see the quantity allocation percentage by state as well, or the number of orders, or any combination. So if I make this as my slicer setting is no more a single select, I make it multi-select, for example. And so now what would happen is if I select two Mayers, so my sales and the quantity is of course showing up, my percentage is not showing up. And the reason behind that is, again, the reason behind that is because what we're saying is whatever Mayer is selected, use that to calculate, and then go into the switch statement and use that calculation now. But in this particular case, what happened is we have selected two Mayers, and this would not work because the percentage now would not work, because what the selected value is going to return, it is going to return the blank, because if one value is selected, only selected value will give us the value at that point of time. But if multiple values are selected, it will go to the it will return the blank value. So only thing what I can do is I can give the default value. Maybe I can give the default value is the same as sales. But again, this is not the solution which we're looking for. So what I'm saying is, if more than one Mayer is selected, then we are forcing it to um, select the uh, default value is the sales Mayer is selected, and then it will calculate the percentage. But that's not what we want. But anyhow, this is one way of, like, it will always collect. Now here we will see the percentage. So this percentage is based on the sales Mayer. So if I have a single Mayer selected, then it is perfectly fine. Let's say if I remove sales and if I just quantity, and you can see California 42.29, and if I selected sales, it is 50.27. But if I select more than one Mayer, my percentage is always percentage of sales. So this is misleading and would not work. So the point here is, with the field parameters, there's two drawbacks which I already saw, is because if I add new Mayer in my field parameter uh, table, I have to go back to my percentage of selected Mayers and then add the calculation, add the switch statement. Another condition here. Second, I cannot have more than two Mayers calculation next to each other. This would not work. So now the question comes is, how calculation group is different than this. So let's look at the same solution. We will reproduce the same thing using calculation group and see how does that work. So to create a calculation group, what I'm going to do is, of course, we're going to go to tabular editor. I actually already added that. I will just quickly walk through that so that because that's pretty straightforward. What I did is I added another calculation group called select a Mayer calculation group, and then the name of the column would be select a Mayer, and then I created three Mayers which I want to give the selection, the similar what we did in the field parameters: sales, quantity, and number of orders. So in the sales, we're going to return the sales, and in the quantity, we are going to return the quantity, and in number of orders, we are going to return the number of orders. That's our Mayers. These are the base Mayers. And let's save these changes. And also created another calculation group called select Mayer, selected Mayer. Let's go. Mayer value and percentage. That's what I want to show. So the column name is Mayer, and then I have two calculation item in this. One is the value, which is just returning the selected Mayer, and the other one is percentage. So the percentage one is whatever the Mayer is selected, and remove filter, or give me the sum of all selected. So what we're going to do here is divide. Actually, I missed to do that. So selected Mayer divided by all the selected states sales. So that give us the percentage, and let's push this. So now once we have these changes, so just quickly let me show you guys what I'm talking about. So we have a first calculation group which is called select a measure, and I gave a calculation group in the bracket. So it has three options: sales, quantity, and number of orders. So sales return the sales measure, quantity return the quantity measure, and number of orders return the number of order measure. And then I have another calculation group which has two options: value and percentage. And the value will return the selected measure, that's a tax function we are using, and the percentage will uh, use divide the selected measure value with the removing the filter on the sales to get the percentage. So if we use this, I'm gonna make another page of duplicate this original page, and let's call it a page with the calculation group. So instead of select a measure which is currently using from the field parameter, we will use it from the our measure, sorry, our calculation group. So let's call select a measure, remove the old one. So now we have a, again, sales, quantity, number of orders option, again similar to what we have in the field parameter. In here, in the matrix visual, what we will use, we will remove what we already have. On the columns here in the matrix visual, now we will use select a measure from the calculation group table. So it will give an error because we don't have anything on the value. So let's add something on the value. Let's add sales. Does not matter what measure we add on the value, because calculation item is going to override that. So as you can see, now we see the sales, quantity, and the number of orders. So this is perfectly working fine. Already we get to the point, we choose sales and then sales is working, we choose quantity and the quantity. And so this was the original field parameter. If the solution was only up to this level, just select a measure and display, the field parameters would have worked perfectly fine. But again, as I said, they wanted to see the percentage of the selected measure for the each state as well. To do so, with the calculation group, with the field parameters, we created a measure, but here we created another calculation group. So which one was called selected measure, value, and percentage. So there is another column in there called measure. I'm going to use that and bring that into my columns. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand down to one level on the right now it is on the expanding down onto the column. So I'm click that. So what I have is, now I have a value and the percentage for quantity. And if I use sales, so now I have a sales value, sales percentage, quantity value, and quantity percentage. Now I have the option to show all three, and depending on value and percentage, and value percentage of the quantity, and number of orders, value percentage. So basically, if I create another measure, let's say if there is some other calculation we want to display with the calculation group and the matrix visual, we can really show more measures here as well, or more calculation items as well. But unfortunately, that was not possible with the field parameters. So in my opinion, if you have a one measure to select and work with, the field parameters would work. But if you want to work more than one measure, maybe field parameter is not the right solution. And also with the calculation groups, if we add a new measure in the calculation group, let's say if I go back to my calculation items here, select a measure, and let's say if I add a new measure called here discount, and one new calculation item here called discount, and then I this measure, let's say return the discount measure. I think I have one, and I apply these changes. I don't need to go back to my other calculation item, which is calculating the percentage, because this particular calculation item is, there's a selected measure. So whatever measure is currently selected, it's going to show me that the value. And also the percentage is always going to be based on the selected measure and divided by the total sum of that selected measure. So that will give the percentage. The precedence, if you're using, again, I want to point it out, if you're using more than one calculation groups, you need to make sure your precedence has been set up correctly. There is another video I did on the precedence, how that is important when you are creating that multiple calculation groups which are dependent on each other, Do check out that video. I will put the link in the description as well. So in the nutshell, you saw the calculation groups and measures, so field parameter does the job. And if it's a very basic requirement, selecting a measures in the visuals, maybe field parameter is a way to go for that. But if you really want to expand beyond that, maybe then you want to revisit using calculation groups. Actually, during this process, when I was working on this, I also used field parameter plus calculation groups as well, which unfortunately did not work. At least when I tried, did not work for me. I thought, okay, maybe the selection of measure can be through the field parameters, and then the calculation group can be used for the value and percentage, but I was not able to figure that out. Maybe if I able to resolve that or come up to some solution using combination of field parameters and the calculation groups, I will surely share with you guys and through my YouTube channel. Anyhow, I hope you learned few things out of this, that when you're using field parameters and when you want to switch to calculation groups, I'm pretty sure there are other use cases as well, and where you might end up using calculation groups. So you have to really think through as a long term what you really want to achieve, and which solution you should use, field parameters or calculation groups. End of the day, they both will do the job depending what you want to do. I hope you learned few things out of this video. Do subscribe my channel for more Power BI related videos, and let me know what you guys think about this video. Until next video, have a great day. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.